Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Saturday here for PakPassion. Delighted to be joined by a dear friend of mine, a Lancashire legend, former player, coach, captain, umpire. I think when it comes to cricket, he's pretty much done everything. Hugely popular commentator, was recently back on air once again, which was great to see. Writes lots of fantastic articles as well. And as I say, a Lancashire legend who is a very familiar face, the one and only David Bumble Lloyd. Bumble, nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Well, it has. I've been over in Australia, which was really nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I come back to the UK and it's freezing cold. And I just had my hair cut before I came, so my head's cold. And I've got a cap on all the time, one of these beanie hats. So, yeah, but it's always good to get home.
So you've gone from surfing on the beach to snow.
Yeah, well, I don't do any surfing. I certainly didn't go to a beach. But I got back just in time for the snow. But I mean, it's gone now. But I think we might get a bit more.
In all seriousness, Bumble, there were many people delighted to hear you and see you back on commentary. How did it feel? Good to be back on the mic again.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the cricket didn't go as well as we would want it to go for England, but I was working with some fantastic people. I mean, if you're working with Ricky Ponting and working with Mark Taylor and Jamie Brayshaw, and I worked with some great broadcasters, and they were sharp. I did Channel 7, which is free to air, very interesting, and then Triple M, which is a bit off the wall radio. The interesting thing is, which is for our topic, that Fox is like Sky. So Fox is pay per view, Channel 7 is free to air, and they both broadcast the test matches. They both broadcast, and the same ABC is like our BBC, and which is very good, very formal, and then you've got Triple M, which is a bit off the wall. So you've got a choice in viewing and listening. And I thought that were really interesting. I thought that, it's a good way of doing it. You're giving the viewer or the listener a choice.
You mentioned about the disappointment, Bumble. I mean, it was one-way traffic, really. I know England won one of the test matches, but I think for those hoping for it to be a competitive series, it sort of didn't happen, did it?
No, and if I were that coach, if I were Brendon McCullum, I'd be gnawing away about the first test match, which they should have won. In that first test match at Perth, in the third innings, we're 100 for 1. And we're in charge of the game and then disintegrated, just, fell apart. And Australia pounced. And so we should have actually been going to Sydney 2 apiece. Should have been 2 each, going to a shootout at Sydney. And they got more competitive as the series went on, which comes back to preparation. You've got to prepare. You have to prepare. And they probably admit now that the preparation wasn't good enough to compete with an Ashes.
You mentioned the coach, Bumble. The knives are out for him, really, aren't they? It seems to be his head on the chopping block at the moment. What do you think about McCullum? Should he carry on, or do you think it's time to get somebody else in?
Well, I'm never one for keep changing. You have a reversal and you change. They've had some good times under McCullum. And whether Rob Key can sit down with him and say, look, we need to move in a different direction, or you're with us. So there's that aspect. Now, if he says, no, this is what we're doing, Rob Key has got a decision to make then. But I'm never one for keep chopping and changing, because it doesn't do the players any good. And I mean, you know more than anybody, Saj, that what happens in Pakistan, if you keep chopping and changing, the victims are actually the players, because you don't get to know your coaches. And of course, in cricket, you come up against Australia, who were better than England. It's as simple as that. If England's preparation was poor, you're going to get beaten, and we got beat badly 4-1. And so, they've got to suck it in and then come up with a better formula, better preparation. And I think Stokes was quite telling in that when we steamrolled teams, it was great. Now teams know how to play against us. So we've got to change again. You've got to evolve.
But when the team's winning, the off-field, what's happening off the field, it's not sort of called into question that much. And people don't the microscope's not on that much regarding what players are doing off the field. But obviously, with England losing 4-1, some of the off-field stuff, some of the press were saying, oh, it was a bit of a stag do this tour. What do you make of all that?
Well, they went to Noosa on a break, and I've absolutely no problem with that. And so they talk about a drinking culture. In many sports in the UK, they're at elite level. There have been people who've liked to drink. I don't think it's a massive problem with the England cricket team. In a team of 17 or 18 players, you might have a couple, maybe three, that like alcohol. I will absolutely guarantee that the majority don't. That they will look after themselves. And if you look at Mitchell Starc at 36 years of age, he was the best player in the whole series. He's 36, and he sustained his performance throughout. No, he abstained from alcohol. I think 6 weeks before and during the series. So that's telling you a little bit about how to prepare. And so they need to learn from that. But I don't think the biggest issue is with the players. I really don't, because I've seen these players. I know the majority of them. There might be a couple. You just got to deal with that. You got to speak to them and remind them of what the responsibilities are. But I don't think it's a widespread thing within the team. If you lose, it's a big problem. It's a problem that you as a coach, you can do without, because it's just another bit of noise that you've got to deal with.
T20 World Cup, Bumble, is upon us. And there's already some controversy regarding visas for players of England and USA who've got Pakistani heritage. Not ideal preparation, really, is it for those? I mean, with England, we know there's a couple of players who've had delays because of their visas. It's not great preparation for them, is it?
No, and it's predictable. It happens every time when a Pakistan heritage player goes to India. There's always a delay, and it's not long ago. It's only a couple of 3 years ago that Saqib Mahmood was exactly the same, and they will get the visas, but I don't know who it is, the government or whoever will just delay. Which is not great. I mean, you've known that this competition has been going ahead for years, and I don't like that sort of thing, to be honest. You're either in or you're not, and by delaying, I think it just demeans the player. It's not great for the individual player. But I know Saqib pretty well, and it's not. Just do the right thing. This is a cricket tournament, and these guys are part of each individual team. You've just got to do the right thing, and they've been slow to react.
Who do you reckon the favourites, Bumble, for the T20 World Cup? Usual suspects, I guess. India playing at home. You've got Australia, etc.
If you've got home advantage, I think that is a great advantage. So India will always produce cricketers. They'll always produce cricketers either for white ball or red ball, so they'll be very, very competitive. The world champions test matches are South Africa, so I think they'll be roundabout. But Australia always produce. New Zealand always punch above the weight, and so there'll be high expectation from England. There will be real high expectation. Can they play on spinning pitches? You know, I would say that England wouldn't be favourites. They wouldn't be in that favourite category. I've got a mate who says Afghanistan, and you know, it's not it's not beyond the realms that if you're going to play on pitches that are going to spin, you need to be strong in that department. So that brings Bangladesh in as well. So it's really who do you want to who do you think will be in the semi-finals, and then you're into a shootout. So you tell me, how good are Pakistan? You tell me.
I mean, the conditions will be good for them, Bumble. Obviously, Asian conditions are going to be playing in Sri Lanka. So, yeah, conditions-wise, great. But it all depends on the selection. And, you know, there's problems with the batting and the approach of some of the Pakistani batters. So I wouldn't class them in the top four at the moment.
No, I don't think I'd put England in the top four. You know, I'd have a South Africa, I think, will be powerful. Australia they're always produce. India are at home, so that's three.
New Zealand, maybe.
But Bangladesh, Afghanistan, they will surprise. I think they will surprise somebody, and it's not beyond the realms to think that, you know, they'll get into the semis. You've got to adapt to the conditions out there, and I would expect that you'll have spinning pitches. So then you change from your quicker bowlers, from the seamers. If you play, a change of pace. Keep changing your pace. Don't be predictable. And you've got to. So what do we think now is a regular score for a 2020 game? What? And I think you've got to. Your minimum is 200. Minimum is 200. And so the crowds will be massive, and that's like an extra player to India. Be an extra player, but does it also put extra pressure on India? You know, it depends who you need your A game. What in 2020, I couldn't predict who's going to win the tournament, because on each given day they can turn each other over.
Under-19 World Cup has just recently started, Bumble, and you know, we're always looking out for future stars, aren't we? And you know, those lads who obviously go on and set the world alight in future. And you know, we've seen previous editions of the Under-19 World Cup where some of today's greats have taken part. So that's an important tournament as well for all the countries, really, isn't it?
It is a massive tournament. It's a tournament I'm really interested in, and I've looked at England's team, and I know one from Yorkshire, Will Benison, he isn't in the team. So I can tell you they must have some bloody good players if he doesn't get in the team. And again, that you would expect that when you're out there in Zimbabwe and Namibia, can you adapt to the conditions? And that's what it's all about, adapting to the conditions. It is a super tournament to find out the character of the players. And you'll find superstars. You go back to Brian Lara and many players who have played in that. Andrew Flintoff, all these great players. They start off. It's a great adventure for these boys, and it's interesting to see down the line how many really make it to the top.
Well, there's a number of Pakistani players out in the Big Bash League at the moment, and recently Mohammad Rizwan was battling, scratching around, struggling a little bit, scored 26 off 23 balls, and I think much to his frustration, the skipper of his team said, "Thanks very much, mate. You come back into the dugout, and I'll take over." He was retired out. you ever been retired out, Bumble? And what do you think of that?
Well, just imagine if you're a player and you know, I saw a big bash match and there were 60,000 people on. Just imagine if the captain said, mate, you get the shepherd's hook, don't you? In you come. And it happened, do you know it happened in finals day, 2020 finals day, this last season? And it was Lanks and George Balderson. George is a lovely, lovely lad, George. And they brought him out, they retired him. He was distraught, was the lad, distraught. And so we haven't got to that situation in football where you get subbed. And they understand that now. They understand that you get subbed, footballers. In cricket, it's a rarity. You don't see it. And the player will be absolutely distraught that, you know, you're not doing well enough. You've got to come off. We've not got to that level. We've not got to that level where, you know, this tactically, I'm going to change you.
I had a similar situation as well with Steve Smith and Babar Azam battling Bumble. And Steve Smith at one end he was facing, and Babar Azam was there. And Steve Smith turned the single down so that he could keep the strike. It was like almost like Babar Azam was a tail ender batting with him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get all that sort of stuff in T20 cricket, and tactically they will be in the rooms and on the board as to who should be doing what. Now, if somebody's not doing the job, you know, I'm all for it. I like this in T20. I like that substitute, but the players would have to get used to it, like they do in football. That you're being subbed. Either you've done great, and we need you for the next match, or that's not good enough, mate, and we're going to put somebody else in.
Pakistan Super League, Bumble, two new teams. I know you're a big fan of heading out to Pakistan. You've had some great times out there. Wouldn't mind seeing you on commentary on that tournament, Bumble, surely.
You know, years ago, it was him actually. It was him asked me would I go over, and it wasn't just right for me. But you're right. When people say, where are the great tours? Well, you know, my great tours are Barbados is as good as it gets, and New Zealand, Australia, Pakistan. Pakistan is chaotic, it's colourful, it's interesting. You got to get out. Don't just go to a hotel and stay in there. Get yourself out. And if I'm in Lahore, I'll be go down the markets, go down the markets, and Karachi, go down the markets. And Islamabad's a bit more formal. You go up there, Islamabad, where the government is and that sort of thing. But I mean, just get yourself out round Lahore, down to the Badshah Mosque. There's 110,000 can go in there, and then you go to Red Fort, and it's fabulous. And I'll never forget when we went to Lahore. We're doing some practice for the one-day team, and Adam Hollyoak was our captain, and he led the charge. And in the down in the markets, a cricket match started in this little lane, in a tiny lane. And we carried on. We'll join in, and we joined in this cricket match. It was fabulous.
And finally, Bumble, Pakistan are looking for a red ball head coach. I believe your application's on the way.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because they've all had a go. Everybody's had a go, and then suddenly you think they're doing fine, and they've gone. That's it. Yeah. It's like, I'll tell you what, Saj, it's like a penance, is that?
So we don't expect your name on the shortlist then, Bumble.
No, and if you take that job, you do it out of curiosity.
Bumble, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and keep warm. I know you said you've just come back from Australia, so wrap up warm, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
We will catch you soon. Thanks, Saj.
Thanks very much, Bumble. Take care.